Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're diving deep into the Indian Budget 2025 today.
This year's budget is a bit of a roller coaster ride.
Lots of surprises to unpack. Buckle up. We're talking about how it could hit your wallet.
The industry's getting a boost.
And maybe even some political maneuvering behind the scenes. Don't forget to hit that like button.
Leave a comment with your other opinions.
And subscribe to the channel and share this with your friends. We love hearing what you think.
Yeah, it's a fascinating budget trying to please individual taxpayers and aim for big picture growth at the same time. Some really interesting choices in there.
For sure. Let's jump right in. We'll start with the part that affects us all directly, direct taxes, and how they'll hit our wallets. The big headline this year is no tax under the new regime if your income is under Euro lakhs.
Sounds pretty good on the surface, right?
Right.
It's a significant jump from the previous 7 lakh threshold, but there's always a catch.
Oh, there's always fine print.
Always. The article we have about the salaried employee earning 12.75 lakhs is a perfect example when you factor in the standard deduction of 75,000.
Ah, so they actually end up dipping below that 12 lakh limit.
Exactly. And then Section 87A kicks in.
Right, Section 87A. It's like a magic wand that can wipe out your tax liability in that income bracket.
Exactly. But you got to be careful. Like the article highlighted, even an extra lakh from something like rental income could push you over the limit and change your whole tax situation.
It's a tightrope walk for sure.
Yeah.
And don't forget that 12 lakh limit doesn't apply to capital gains. Investments are a whole other ballgame.
Absolutely. The government's making things easier for salaried folks, but they're keeping a close eye on those other income streams. Makes you wonder if they're subtly encouraging longer-term investments. What do you think?
Interesting point. Definitely something to keep an eye on. And hey, if you're finding this deep dive interesting so far, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to The Other Opinion for more deep dives like this. Share it with your friends too. Now, for those who are sticking with the old tax regime, not a whole lot of change, but one thing did catch my eye. The NPS Vatsalya scheme deduction.
Yeah, that's a new one. So this is for parents or guardians who are putting money into that scheme for a minor child. They can now claim a deduction up to 50,000 euros, mirroring the deduction for regular NPS contributions.
A nice little perk for those planning ahead. Speaking of perks, let's not forget about those TDS changes tax deducted at source.
Right. The increased thresholds for TDS on interest and rental income are worth noting. For example, senior citizens will only see TDS on their interest income if their total interest earnings are over 1 lakh.
Up from 50,000 previously.
That's right.
A bit of breathing room there. And landlords are getting a break too, with the TDS threshold on rental income jumping to 6 lakhs.
From 2.4 lakhs?
It seems like the government is trying to put more money directly in people's pockets, maybe hoping to boost spending a bit.
Classic economic stimulus move. Now, shifting gears to indirect taxes, there's a definite Make in India push happening here with a bunch of duty cuts and exemptions. What jumped out at you?
Well, all the duty reductions on things like lithium-ion battery scrap and other critical minerals, it's pretty clear they're trying to attract those manufacturing industries to India.
Absolutely. And it's not just batteries. They've also removed customs duties on the capital goods needed for EV battery and mobile phone battery production. It's strategic. They want to position India as a leader in those booming sectors. The question is, will it work?
Will companies bite?
Yeah, exactly. And let's not forget the exaction on those essential life-saving drugs for cancer and rare diseases. That's huge for so many patients and families.
Absolutely, a much-needed relief. But of course, all these breaks have to be paid for somehow. We're talking a massive euro 1 lakh crore in direct taxes and 4,600 crore in indirect taxes the government is essentially letting go of.
Right, and yet the finance minister is projecting a lower fiscal deficit this year despite these breaks. Makes you wonder how they're going to pull that off. What are our listeners thinking about all this? If you've got another opinion on the Indian Budget 2025, hit that comment button and let us know. And of course, if you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure to hit like and subscribe to The Other Opinion for more.
We love those other opinions.
So it seems like they're banking on non-tax revenue, expecting increased dividends from public sector undertakings, banks, and the RBI. About 10% more than last year, actually.
So tapping into existing resources to make up for the cuts. But they're also projecting a rise in total direct tax revenue. Seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? How does that work?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Their logic seems to be that with lower direct taxes, people will have more money in their pockets.
More spending power, leading to spending.
And that means increased GST collections. It's a gamble, for sure, but if the economy reacts the way they're hoping it could pay off.
So, Stimulate the economy hope that leads to more activity and ultimately higher tax revenue in other areas. Makes sense.
Hmm.
But what about businesses? Any tax breaks for them?
Not really. So if demand rises, like they're hoping companies could actually end up paying more in corporate tax.
A rising tide lifts all boats situation. They're betting on a healthier economy that benefits everyone, including the government, through increased corporate tax revenue.
Exactly. And they're also counting on higher revenue from gold. No import duty cut on gold this time around.
Meaning,
Higher tax revenue from that sector. It's a smart move considering the huge demand for gold. Looks like they're trying to diversify their revenue streams, cover all their bases.
a delicate balancing act. Okay, let's zoom in on some specific sectors that caught my eye in this budget. First up, the insurance industry. Any thoughts on the changes there?
Well, they've increased FDI in insurance to 100%, but with a catch.
There's always a catch, right? What's the condition this time?
Foreign companies that want to take advantage of this increased FDI have to invest all the premiums they collect back into India.
So they're saying, come on in, invest, but keep those benefits circulating here.
Exactly. A way to attract that foreign investment while making sure it contributes to the Indian economy. What other sectors caught your eye?
The push for nuclear power stood out to me.
Yeah, there's a big investment in nuclear energy this time. 20,000 crore allocated just for developing small modular reactors.
That's a big commitment.
Right.
What's driving this nuclear focus?
Well, India is actually behind the global average when it comes to nuclear energy's contribution to their electricity grid. The goal is a major boost.
Wow. How much of a boost are we talking?
The government is aiming for 100 gigawatts of nuclear energy by 2047.
Ambitious. What's the thinking behind that kind of investment?
A few things, actually. A more stable power grid, less reliance on coal, and of course, lower emissions. It's a long-term strategy for a cleaner energy future.
I can definitely see the appeal. What are your thoughts on this, listeners? Hit that comment section. Tell us what you think. Another sector that I found interesting was the gig economy. What do you think about the budget changes there?
Well, it's about time the gig economy gives some official recognition.
It's a big step, considering how many people are part of that workforce now.
Huge. Gig workers will now get identity cards, which is a big deal for formalization and maybe even more important, access to the Jan Arroja health insurance scheme. What are your thoughts on that?
A huge win for a workforce that's been in a kind of gray area for too long. Much needed support and recognition. And who knows, maybe a model for other countries who are trying to figure out how to deal with this new way of working.
Right, bringing the gig economy into the fold and making sure those workers have access to benefits. So zooming out a bit, what's your take on the overall picture this budget is painting?
Yeah, let's move beyond the individual pieces here. What are the big picture takeaways?
Well, even with the tax cuts, there's a clear emphasis on fiscal responsibility. I mean, the projected lower fiscal deficit, the plan to reduce the debt to GDP ratio, those are strong signals.
So stimulate the economy, but keep a tight grip on those purse strings.
Exactly. They're also looking at asset monetization to bring in more funds, and they've outlined a pretty substantial 10 lakh crore plan for new projects over the next 5 years.
Ambitious. What about infrastructure spending? Where does that fit into the picture?
There's a slight increase, but the hope is that private investment will be the real driver.
So share the responsibility.
Yeah.
Use that private capital to give infrastructure development a boost.
Right. And they've also introduced an interest-free loan scheme for states to help them fund their own infrastructure projects, giving states more control and keeping central spending in check.
Interesting. How about the UDAN scheme? Wasn't that a big initiative to boost regional air connectivity?
Yeah, they've extended it, which is good, but the allocation has been reduced. Maybe a bit of a reassessment there, especially since it hasn't been a complete success story.
Adjustments. Figuring out where to best to allocate those resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's one state that got a lot of attention in this budget. Bihar. What did you make of that?
Ah, Bihar. I think everyone on social media was having a field day with those memes about how often it came up.
Definitely meme-worthy. But jokes aside, some solid benefits for Bihar in this budget. What stood out to you?
The Makana board, for one. Boosting the production and marketing of foxnuts, which Bihar dominates that industry.
And the Western Kosi Canal project. That'll bring much-needed irrigation to thousands of hectares of farmland. And of course, IIT Patna is getting an expansion.
Bihar is getting a pretty nice package. And of course, you can't ignore the potential political implications.
Right. With elections coming up in Bihar, the timing of these announcements is interesting, to say the least. Coincidence?
Hard to say for sure. But regardless of the political motivations, these are positive developments for Bihar, a state that could really use this kind of boost.
I agree. And it's not just Bihar. The Northeast got some love, too, with that new urea plant planned for Assam.
Spreading the love, focusing on regions that have been historically neglected. What do our listeners think about this? Don't forget to like and subscribe to The Other Opinion for more deep dives like this.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and share this episode with your friends. We'll be back soon to wrap things up and offer some final thoughts. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Indian Budget 2025. We've covered a lot of ground taxes, spending specific sectors, you name it.
It's been quite the journey trying to unpack all the complexities of this budget. Now it's time to step back and think about the big picture, the long-term implications of all these policies.
Absolutely. We've talked about the tax breaks, those ambitious spending plans, the focus on certain industries. But what's the overall message? What's the big takeaway for you?
It's a balancing act. They're trying to stimulate growth while keeping things fiscally responsible and address social concerns all at the same time.
Quite a challenge trying to keep everyone happy and the economy on track.
Exactly. And it's not just about today. This budget lays the groundwork for the future, too. The focus on things like renewable energy infrastructure tech, it's clear they're aiming for a more sustainable, digitally advanced India.
Planting the seeds for a different kind of future. What do you think, listeners? Is this budget a step in the right direction? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to The Other Opinion for more deep dives like this.
And it's not all on the government's shoulders. The private sector has a huge role to play, too. This budget really relies on private investment to fuel that growth and innovation.
It's a partnership, a collaborative effort to shape the future of the Indian economy.
Right. And of course, we can't forget the impact on individuals. Ultimately, a budget's success is measured by how it affects people's lives, their finances, their communities, their opportunities.
Creating an environment where people can thrive and prosper, that's the goal, right?
It is. But it won't be easy. Global uncertainty, social inequalities, climate change, there are a lot of obstacles to overcome. But this budget could be a positive step, a roadmap to a better future. What surprised you most about this budget?
There were some unexpected turns for sure, but I think the thing that really struck me was the focus on the gig economy. Officially recognizing gig workers and offering them Social Security benefits, that's a big deal. It shows the government is acknowledging how work is changing and adapting to this new reality.
I agree. A significant move. Could have ripple effects not just in India, but globally. Other countries trying to figure out this gig economy thing will be watching closely. Don't forget to share your other opinions down in the comments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sign of progress. Recognizing that the world of work is changing. Well, that brings our deep dive into the Indian Budget 2025 to a close. We covered a lot, but like always, there's always more to explore.
Definitely. I encourage everyone to dig into the details, think critically, and have those conversations about the potential impact. This is about our future. We need to be informed and involved.
Couldn't agree more. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button. Drop a comment with your other opinions, subscribe to The Other Opinion, and share this episode with your friends. We'll be back soon with another deep dive exploring a new topic, uncovering new insights. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep those other opinions coming. Before we go, just a quick note. This was an AI-generated deep dive about the Indian Budget 2025. We aim for accuracy, but we might have missed something. So if you spot anything that seems off or have any other opinions, let us know in the comments. We'd really appreciate your feedback.